Grok 4. This is the latest artificial intelligence system. We are now at the crossroads where promise and peril are going to collide.
Elon Musk just dropped another internet bomb. He asked his AI, Grok, to analyze the mysterious Shroud of Turin, believed by many to show the face of Jesus. What Grok revealed left scientists completely speechless. The mix of AI, faith, and history has the entire world buzzing. Here's what really happened. The Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is one of the most famous and mysterious objects in the world. For hundreds of years, people have wondered if it could really be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ.
As the Shroud of Turin, is this the real burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth?
Some believe it is a holy relic, while others think it is a clever fake made in the Middle Ages. No matter what side you're on, the Shroud story is full of mystery, faith, and science. The Shroud is a long piece of linen cloth, about 14 feet long and 3.5 feet wide. On the cloth, there is a faint image of a man who looks like he was crucified. You can see marks on the wrists and feet, blood stains on the head, and wounds across the back. These match the descriptions of how Jesus was said to have died. What makes it even stranger is that the image is not painted or drawn. It looks like a light shadow that shows up much more clearly in photographs, almost like a photo negative. This odd detail was first discovered in 1898 by an Italian photographer named Secondo Pia. When he developed his photos of the Shroud, he was shocked to see a clear face looking back at him. The image was more lifelike and detailed than anyone had seen before. That discovery spread fast and made the Shroud world famous again. It also started a wave of new studies by scientists who wanted to understand how such an image could appear on fabric. The first known appearance of the Shroud was in 14th century France, in a small town called Lire. A French knight named Geoffroy de Charny owned it and showed it to the public in a local church. People were amazed and traveled from far away to see it. But even then, not everyone believed it was real. Some church leaders claimed it was a fake, saying an artist had confessed to making it. Still, the Shroud's fame continued to grow. In the 15th century, the cloth came into the hands of the House of Savoy, a powerful Italian family. In 1578, they moved it to Turin, Italy, where it is still kept today inside the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. Over time, it has survived many dangers, including a church fire in 1532. The heat melted part of the silver chest that held it, and drops of molten metal burned through the cloth. The burn holes were later patched by nuns, and those marks can still be seen today. Scientists have studied the Shroud many times. In 1988, experts tested small pieces of the fabric using radiocarbon dating. Their results showed the cloth came from between 1260 and 1390, meaning it was likely made in the Middle Ages. That led many to say the Shroud was not real, but other researchers disagreed, arguing that the sample tested might have come from a repaired area, not the original cloth. Later studies found pollen, fibers, and blood traces that seemed to come from the Middle East, which kept the mystery alive. The Shroud of Turin is more than just an old piece of fabric. For believers, it is a sacred sign of Christ's suffering and resurrection. For scientists, it is a puzzle that challenges everything we know about art and chemistry. It has survived wars, fires, and endless arguments. And now, with Elon Musk's Grok AI looking at it in a new way, the centuries-old mystery of the Shroud is being explored again, this time through the eyes of artificial intelligence. For decades, scientists have tried to solve the mystery of this ancient cloth. Here's what they discovered: the scientific debate. Before artificial intelligence came into the picture, scientists had already spent many years studying the Shroud of Turin. They wanted to find out how old it really was and how the strange image appeared on it. For a long time, people argued back and forth. Some said it was a real relic from the time of Jesus Christ, while others were sure it was a fake made in the Middle Ages. In 1988, a major scientific test was done that many believed would finally give a clear answer. The test was called carbon-14 dating. This method measures how much carbon remains in old materials, which helps scientists estimate their age. Small pieces of the shroud were cut from one corner and sent to 3 famous laboratories, one in Oxford, one in Zurich, and one in Arizona. The tests were done very carefully to make sure the results would be correct. When the results came out, the world was shocked. All 3 labs agreed that the cloth dated between the years 1260 and 1390 after Christ. That meant it was made in the Middle Ages over 1,000 years after the time of Jesus. For many scientists, this proved that the shroud was not a real relic, but a medieval creation. The findings were published in the famous science journal Nature, and most experts accepted the result. According to this test, the shroud was likely made around the same time it first appeared in history, the 14th century in France. That seemed to fit perfectly with written records showing when it was first displayed to the public. For most researchers, the mystery appeared to be solved. They said the shroud might have been made by a skilled artist to inspire faith among believers or to bring more visitors to a church. But many people did not accept this answer. Believers said the carbon dating test was wrong because the sample that scientists tested came from a part of the cloth that had been repaired and handled many times. Over the centuries, the shroud had survived fires, smoke, water, and human touch. Each of these could have added modern materials to the fabric. These new fibers might have made the cloth look much younger than it really was. Some experts also pointed out that the cloth had been partly rewoven after a fire in the 16th century. The patching might have mixed new threads with the old ones, changing the results of the test. Others said that bacteria, dust, or smoke could have changed the carbon levels. A few scientists even suggested that a burst of energy or radiation could have affected the fabric's chemistry, making the test unreliable. Even with these arguments, the biggest mystery was still the image itself. Scientists could not explain how it was made. No paint, ink, or pigment was found on the cloth. The image sits only on the topmost fibers of the linen, as if it was lightly scorched by light. It is not brushed on or soaked in. When seen under ultraviolet light, the image looks even more unusual. Some said it was caused by a natural chemical reaction, while others thought it came from an unknown process. Because of this, believers continued to see the shroud as a miraculous sign, something beyond human understanding. Skeptics still believed it was a clever artistic trick made by someone in the Middle Ages. Both sides had strong opinions, and both claimed the evidence was on their side. By the end of the 20th century, the Shroud of Turin had become one of the most studied and argued about relics in the world. The carbon test results stood firm for many scientists, while the mysteries of the image gave hope to those who believed it was real. Traditional science could not fully explain it, and that left the door open for new technology and later artificial intelligence to take a deeper look into the truth behind this ancient and haunting cloth. With so much debate going on, someone decided to ask a very modern question. What would artificial intelligence think? What Grok A? When Elon Musk brought his own artificial intelligence system, Grok, into the mystery of the Shroud of Turin, the internet exploded with curiosity. Grok is part of Musk's XAI company and is connected to his social platform X. It is known for giving bold, smart, and sometimes surprising answers. So when it was asked to look at the Shroud of Turin, one of the most mysterious objects in human history, everyone wanted to know what it would find. The goal was clear and simple: Musk and his team wanted to use Grok to take a fresh modern look at something that has been debated for hundreds of years. For a long time, people have argued about whether the shroud is real or fake. Grok was not asked to prove religion right or wrong. It was asked to look at the facts and give a clear, logical answer. Musk wanted to see what an advanced AI would say about something that has confused scientists for generations. The first group of questions focused on the age and origin of the shroud. Grok was given all the known data, including old research, carbon dating results, and later studies that challenged those tests. It was told to review the facts and look for patterns that humans might have missed. The goal was to see what the data really suggested about when and where the shroud came from. Next, Grok was shown high-quality images of the faint figure on the cloth, the image of a man who appears to have been crucified. The AI studied details like the shape, the light and dark areas, and the blood-like stains. It looked for signs of painting, printing, or burning. Scientists had already tested for paint and pigment many times, but found none. Grok's job was to study the image from a digital and analytical point of view and identify what kind of process might have made it. Another part of the test asked Grok to explore historical records. The AI reviewed writings from old churches, archives, and scholars. It followed the timeline of how the shroud appeared in France in the 14th century, and how it ended up in Turin, Italy, where it still remains today. By connecting bits of information, Grok created a clear picture of how the cloth might have traveled through time, and who may have owned it. Elon Musk chose Grok for this task because it is not just a normal chatbot. Grok was designed to analyze complex information, find hidden links, and think in creative ways. Musk often says that AI can help uncover truths that people miss because of personal beliefs or emotional views. The Shroud of Turin was the perfect test of that idea, a mix of faith, history, and science that needed a calm and logical mind to explore. The way the experiment was framed was very careful. The team made sure Grok's study stayed neutral. It was not about faith or religion. It was about facts, evidence, and observation. The prompts and data were written in clear, factual language to help Grok reason without bias. In a way, this experiment showed how far human curiosity has come. For centuries, people have tried to understand the shroud using belief and science. Now, with Grok AI, technology itself was joining the search. It was a meeting of ancient mystery and modern intelligence, where the world's oldest question met the newest kind of mind. What happened next shocked everyone. Here's what Grok revealed. Grok's shocking findings. When Grok AI finished analyzing the Shroud of Turin, its findings stunned everyone. What it revealed combined deep science with mystery, and even some scientists were left speechless. The AI didn't take sides or show emotion, but the facts it presented were impossible to ignore. Grok's first major focus was on how the image was formed. It carefully examined high-quality photos, digital scans, and microscopic data collected over decades. The AI noted that the image on the cloth is not made of paint, ink, or dye. Instead, it is made up of very light marks that rest only on the top surface of the linen fibers, thinner than a human hair. Grok pointed out that no known painting or printing method could create this kind of shallow image without soaking into the cloth. The AI also highlighted the image's strange energy pattern. Some scientists had already suggested that the image could have been made by a burst of intense light or radiation. Grok found this idea interesting because the image behaves almost like a light imprint, similar to how film captures a flash. The data showed no sign of brushing, pressure, or pigment, only a change in color, caused by a form of energy. Grok concluded that the image might have been created by an instant, high-energy event, something beyond what any medieval artist could have done. The AI even compared the data to modern radiation imaging and found similarities, noting that the shroud's features cannot be replicated with known medieval tools or methods. The next area Grok studied was the blood evidence. Over the years, scientists have tested the reddish stains on the shroud, and many confirmed that it is real human blood, not paint. Grok analyzed those findings and verified that the blood was identified as type AB, one of the rarest blood types in the world. The AI connected this to samples of ancient blood found in Middle Eastern regions, where AB type is more common. Grok also noted that the blood patterns on the shroud match what would happen to a body that had been crucified. The stains around the wrists, feet, side, and forehead lined up perfectly with injuries described in ancient crucifixion methods. Even the flow direction of the blood matched how gravity would act on a body hanging on a cross. The AI found this detail extremely precise, saying the patterns would be nearly impossible to fake without modern forensic knowledge. Finally, Grok analyzed the shroud's three-dimensional encoding, something that has puzzled experts for years. When scientists first converted the image data into 3D form, they discovered that the shroud contains hidden depth information, meaning the brightness of the image changes based on how far parts of the body would have been from the cloth. This kind of depth encoding is impossible to create by painting or drawing. Grok noted that even today, reproducing such an effect would require advanced image technology, which did not exist in the Middle Ages. Grok also pointed out that the shroud works like a photographic negative. The lighter and darker areas are reversed, and when photographed, the negative reveals a detailed, lifelike face. This property existed long before photography was invented in the 19th century, which made it even harder to explain as a medieval creation. These findings were so unexpected that the scientific community didn't know what to say. Or did they? The silent scientists. When Grok AI's report on the Shroud of Turin came out, it spread across the internet like wildfire. People everywhere started talking about it, believers, skeptics, and scientists. But the most surprising reaction came from the scientific community itself. Many scientists who had studied the shroud for years suddenly went quiet. They didn't rush to agree or disagree. They simply had no words. For decades, most experts had believed that the shroud was a medieval fake. The carbon dating test done in 1988 seemed to prove that it was made between the years 1260 and 1390. That was supposed to be the end of the story. But Grok's new analysis brought the mystery back to life. The AI pointed out things that could not be explained by known science. The shallow image that looks like it was burned by light, the real human blood, and the strange three-dimensional data hidden in the fabric. At first, many scientists tried to ignore it. They thought it was just another online rumor. But as Grok's report was shared more widely, even skeptical experts began to take a closer look. The AI had analyzed data from past studies and found patterns and connections that humans had overlooked. It did not make wild claims. It simply listed facts that didn't fit the usual explanations. That calm and logical tone made the findings even harder to dismiss. Some researchers admitted privately that Grok's results matched what earlier studies had found. Back in the 1970s, a group of American scientists from the Shroud of Turin research project had also noticed that the image carried depth information, something no painting or drawing could produce. Grok confirmed this and added new insights about energy bursts and light exposure, comparing the shroud's marks to patterns seen in radiation imaging. That detail caught the attention of physicists, who knew how unusual such data was. Still, most scientists chose to remain silent in public. The shroud has always been a sensitive subject. It sits at the crossroads of science and religion, two worlds that don't always mix well. Many scientists fear being labeled as biased or unscientific if they speak about religious artifacts. Others worry about losing credibility if they even suggest that something about the shroud might still be unexplained. Grok's findings made that line even harder to walk. One physicist reportedly said that the AI's report was too precise to ignore. Another said that if the energy data was accurate, it would mean the image was created by a process we do not yet understand. Some scientists quietly began rechecking old data using modern software, curious to see if they would find the same results Grok did. But most avoided public comment. Their silence was not a denial. It was a pause for thought. Outside the labs, the world reacted loudly. Social media was full of posts saying things like AI confirms Shroud mystery and scientists speechless after Grok's report. Some people saw it as a sign that even machines could recognize the sacred. Others said the AI was simply interpreting data in new ways. But inside the science world, the silence remained. That silence spoke volumes. It was a mix of curiosity, confusion, and respect. Grok had used logic, not faith, to study an ancient relic, and still reached a point that science couldn't fully explain. It reminded everyone that even with all our progress, some mysteries remain beyond our reach. But wait, before we accept these claims, we need to ask some tough questions about what AI can really tell us. Critical analysis and skepticism. After Grok AI's report on the Shroud of Turin, many people were amazed, but scientists stayed calm and careful. They reminded everyone that AI has limits. Grok is smart, but it cannot touch, test, or study real objects. It only reads and studies information that already exists. This means it can only work with the data humans have given it, and that data might not be complete or perfect. Grok works by finding patterns. It looks at huge amounts of text, images, and numbers, then connects details that seem related. But finding a connection is not the same as proving something. In science, that difference is called correlation versus causation. Just because two things seem linked does not mean one caused the other. For example, Grok may see that a burst of energy could make marks like those on the shroud, but that doesn't mean such an energy burst really happened. Scientists say Grok's report is interesting, but it should not be treated as proof. The AI cannot do real experiments or physical testing. It cannot look at the cloth under a microscope or test the fibers for chemicals. What it does is analyze old research and summarize what might be possible. That's helpful, but it's not the same as discovery. Experts also say that AI tools like Grok can sometimes copy human bias. Since Grok was trained using books, websites, and studies written by people, it can reflect their opinions. If most of the sources suggest that the shroud is real, Grok might lean toward that view. If most say it's fake, it might do the same. The AI does not have belief or doubt. It just repeats patterns it finds in the data. The scientific community reacted to Grok's report with mixed feelings. Some found it exciting and wanted to check the claims again, but most scientists still trust the carbon dating test done in 1988. That test showed the shroud came from the 13th or 14th century, which means it was likely made in the medieval period, long after Jesus lived. To them, this still proves that the shroud is not ancient. Many researchers also gave simpler explanations for the shroud's strange features. Some said the image might have formed naturally from body oils or reactions between the cloth and substances on a corpse. Others said it could have been created by early artists using heat or chemicals, not by paint or light. These ideas are less mysterious but make more sense in normal scientific terms. Scientists also warned that AI can sometimes find patterns that are not really there. Because it studies so much data, it might see meaning in random marks or numbers. That is why researchers say any AI discovery must be double-checked through real, hands-on testing. In the end, Grok's report started an important discussion but did not solve the mystery. AI can help scientists think in new ways, but it cannot replace real experiments. The Shroud of Turin is still one of the world's most argued over relics. Grok may have added new ideas, but for now, the scientific world continues to rely on facts, evidence, and testing, not just computer analysis. This whole story tells us something bigger about how we search for truth today: the intersection of faith and technology. In today's world, people often turn to technology for answers to almost everything, even questions about faith. With the rise of AI, many believe machines can look at things without emotion or bias. So, when Elon Musk's Grok AI analyzed the Shroud of Turin, it felt like science and religion were meeting face to face. For some, this was exciting. For others, it was uncomfortable. People are drawn to AI because they think it gives objective truth. Unlike humans, AI doesn't have beliefs or personal opinions. It simply studies data and gives logical answers. That's why many turn to AI when it comes to mysteries like the Shroud. They hope that technology will finally prove or disprove what humans have argued about for centuries. It's the same reason people use AI to study old texts, artifacts, or even spiritual events. They want a clear answer from something that doesn't take sides. But that hope can also be risky. AI only knows what it has been taught. It works with the information and biases already inside its data. If people ask questions expecting a certain answer, the AI might find patterns that support that belief. This is called confirmation bias, when someone looks only for information that matches what they already believe. Even with advanced technology, that bias can still happen. If a person wants the Shroud to be real, they might phrase their question in a way that makes the AI more likely to agree. That's why it's important to see AI as a tool, not a judge. It can help explore ideas, but it can't decide the truth about faith. Religious belief is built on trust, mystery, and personal experience, while science is based on evidence and testing. The two can work together, but they are not the same. The Shroud of Turin shows this perfectly. AI can study the image, the cloth, and the data, but it can't measure belief. Faith is about things that go beyond logic, things that can't be fully explained or proven. For believers, the mystery is part of the meaning. For scientists, the mystery is a puzzle to solve. And this isn't just about the Shroud, it's about how we consume information in the digital age, what this reveals about modern discourse. The story of Grok AI and the Shroud of Turin did more than spark debate about science and faith. It showed how easily complex topics can turn into viral headlines. In today's fast-moving digital world, news spreads faster than ever. People share bold claims without checking where they came from or what they really mean. That's how phrases like "scientists silent" or "AI proves the miracle" take over social media. They sound dramatic and exciting, but they often hide the full truth. This kind of sensationalism is common in online science stories. People love mystery and shock. A headline saying, "AI confirms the Shroud is real," gets far more attention than one that says, "AI raises new questions about old data." But the problem is that the first headline oversimplifies the issue. It turns careful research into entertainment. Many readers only see the title, not the detailed explanation behind it. As a result, rumors grow, while facts fade into the background. The scientist's silent pattern is a perfect example. It suggests that experts are speechless because they've been proven wrong, but often silence just means they're being cautious. Real scientists rarely jump to conclusions. They want to test, review, and confirm before making public statements. But on the internet, that careful process can look like fear or denial. People mistake thoughtful hesitation for weakness. Social media also creates echo chambers, where people only see opinions that match their own. If someone believes the Shroud is real, their feed will show posts and videos that support that idea. If someone thinks it's fake, they'll see the opposite. Both sides get stuck in their own circles, repeating the same arguments and ignoring evidence that doesn't fit. This makes it even harder to have open, balanced discussions. AI stories like Grok's report often feed into these echo chambers. They mix real science with mystery and emotion, creating the perfect recipe for viral content. The problem isn't just misinformation, it's the way complex ideas get simplified into easy emotional stories. And that's how one ancient cloth and one modern AI reignited a global mystery. Whether you see the Shroud as proof, art, or pure wonder, Grok's findings remind us how faith and technology keep challenging what we think we know. If this story fascinated you, like, share, and subscribe. More unbelievable AI mysteries are coming soon.